Hello, 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 and welcome to another exciting episode of Nothing Zilch. We're your hosts, Xavier Dean.
And Jacob Green.
And for our first episode of the brand new year, we have a topic brought to us by Mr. Jacob Green. So,
Welcome to
Jake,
my Nada talk.
yep. Now, for those of you who weren't here earlier to hear our new segments,
Mhm.
welcome to my Nada Talk is where we take a more informational approach to what we're discussing. This may mean that it's normally one of us talking, if not both of us talking back to back. There may be a little discussion, but overall it is informational. So Jake, what are we learning about today?
Well, as you can see, we're learning about Pokemon, but a specific version of Pokemon. We're talking about Gold and Silver, and even more specific, we're talking about the prototype version of Gold and Silver. I called it the lost prototype when making these slides, but it was actually discovered in 2018. Someone dumped the wrong a ROM of the game, the demo that was first presented of Gold and Silver, uh, and we'll talk about how that demo was presented to the people that first experienced this version. Um, but I believe you can still play it now. You could play it with like a debug menu and you can do all sorts of different things in it. I'm not sure how far in the game you could get to, but regardless, um, I want to talk about this lost prototype version of the game because although the information has been around for, I want to say close to 8 years now, uh, I don't think a lot of people have I don't think many people, even some fans of Pokemon, still know about this version. Um, and because Xavier told me during the week before we recorded this episode that we start 2026 with a bang. Hope this is a bang enough. So let's talk about the lost prototype version of Gold and Silver. But in order to talk about that, we need to talk about Space World. Now, what is Space World? Well, Space World used to be a convention that was held by Nintendo exclusively in Japan. It was formerly known as Shoshinkai when it started out. I don't think it adopted the Space World name until 1996, but us English speaking people call it Space World anyways. Um, but it was for the most part, it was an annual event. It started in 1989 and went up until 2001. I think the only year that there was not a Space World convention was in 1998. Um, and the convention was only in 3 cities in Japan. Now, whether they moved from one place to another for each annual year. I'm not sure about that. After rediscovering this for the topic of this video, I actually do really want to talk about Space World at some point. Now, whether we talk about the individual conventions or if it's all going to be one video, depending on how much is there, it'll all depend. Um, but Xavier, you're familiar with the E3 conventions that used to be around?
Yeah, I'm
Um,
familiar with E3.
Rest in peace, E3. But Space World was basically that, but exclusively for Nintendo products. In other words, it's Nintendo uh, going up to the other companies like Sega and Sony and being like, "Hey, we're hosting our own convention, and the best part is you're not invited." Um, but yeah, um, but specifically, we'll be talking about Space World 1997, and we have some footage of the event right here. In fact, I'm going to be doing this differently this time. I recently found a catalog based on what was presented at the event. Here we go.
Hey, it's working. For
Space
those of you who
World
don't
19.
know, this is our third take.
Yeah.
Hopefully the
Uh,
last.
yeah, but this is the Space World 1997 catalog. For the record, I love looking at old gaming catalogs, whether it's Japan or America. Like it, simpler times back then. Also, not as much internet speculation going on at the time.
Mhm.
Um, so 1997 was during the era of Nintendo where it was the Game Boy and the Nintendo 64. Those were the systems that were still relevant. Although the Game Boy was definitely the oldest system because that debuted in 1989. So it was 8 years old at this point. Um, and the hardware was definitely showing its age. But because of Pokemon releasing in 1996, it made the system relevant again. Of course, they did make revisions of the original Game Boy. They had the Game Boy Pocket and the different color Game Boys and the Game Boy Light. And then the next year in 1998, they would release the Game Boy Color. Um, now, to talk about Space World a little bit, the details of these events, it was showcasing exclusively Nintendo products. So it was a convention where the Super Nintendo debuted, also known as the Super Famicom in Japan, the Game Boy, the Nintendo 64, the Game Boy Advance, the GameCube. It was a lot of hardware debuts and also some of the add-ons that were related to those systems. But it was also where certain games got debuted. So again, this was exclusively Nintendo 64 and Game Boy games. Um, Now, there wasn't really too much going on in 97. 97 was kind of a slow year for Nintendo. Really, 97, most of it was for the build up to The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, which is in this catalog. And that is uh, Ocarina of Time when they debut, it wouldn't be released for the Nintendo 64 until like 1998. So 97 was basically like the hype year for Ocarina of Time. As we can see here, there's some gameplay and art of the game. But the other big game that was showcased was Pokemon Gold and Silver, also known as Pocket Monsters Gold and Silver. For the record, Pocket Monsters is what it's called in Japan. Get
Mhm.
it? Pokemon. I'll shut up now. But
No, you have to keep talking about this. I can't.
yeah,
I don't know what else is
yes,
going on here.
that is true. But Gold and Silver, the demo for it was debuted in Space World 1997, and that is when we got gameplay footage of the game, which eventually did get leaked online. You could find some videos of the convention on YouTube. Um, but we also got the debut of some of the new Pokemon. Now, 97 was still a pretty big year for Pokemon because it debuted in 96. Now, we wouldn't get Pokemon on the Game Boy until 1998. And in 97, we got the trading card game by then. We also got the debut of the Pokemon anime. So there was a lot going on in Japan even before Pokemon would hit stores worldwide. Um, but in 97, in the anime was also like by the very first episode of the anime, we were already getting teased for the second generation of Pokemon. Now, uh, to really hit home, like how long Gold and Silver took to develop, because like Red and Green, the Japanese versions of what would become Red and Blue, debuted in 1996. They started development right after those games. Um, the demo here debuted in 1997, but the games would not release in Japan until 1999 in Japan, and then to the rest of the world in 2000. So that's almost like a 3-year development time. And so they made a lot of changes from this demo to the actual games. Now, as you can see, we got the debut of some Generation 2 Pokemon, a couple of which also debuted in the anime, like Ho-Ho and Donphan. Um, Now to talk about some of the changes that were made from this game, you were at first able to ride a skateboard in the game, in contrast to the bike. Not sure how it would be different from the bike, but it was X'd um
Maybe you'd be
X from
able
the
to jump
game.
over those. Yeah, maybe you'd be able with the bike or with the skateboard to jump over those hedges and stuff like that.
I don't know. But also this was still because these were originally made for the original Game Boy, they didn't really take advantage of the color quite yet, like the wide array of colors. So I assume because Nintendo was debuting the Game Boy Color in 1997, a system that would experiment with a wide variety of different colors instead of the monochrome colors of the Game Boy would become known for. Um, Gold and Silver would take advantage of that color palette for anyone that was playing on a Game Boy Color. Um, those were some of the major changes. I believe there was also supposed to be a traditional safari zone in Johto, which was also present in the Kanto games, but I think that got replaced with the National Park, which handles a little bit differently from the safari zone. Now
Hmm.
to go back to the slides, um, going back to the slides here.
Hmm.
Um, so as you can see, like we got the screenshots of the game. So I believe Ho-Ho was supposed to be the original legendary Pokemon. So these, of course, would be the very first games where the starters weren't like the box mascots of the Pokemon. This would be the trend of having legendary Pokemon be the box art of the Pokemon. Except it wasn't Ho-Ho and Lugia. It was exclusively Ho-Ho. I don't think Lugia was made until the final version of Gold and Silver. And I will show you why in a minute. But of course, we got photos from the convention. We got another catalog here detailing like some screenshots from the event. And we even get a screenshot of the game itself, which you might recognize, not recognize, but you might see some Pokemon that um, are not related to the Gen 2 games in any way. Well, so of all the changes that were made to this Gold and Silver and why I'm exclusively talking about it without talking about the rest of what was happening in Space World 1997, here's your answer. Boom. Look at all these different Pokemon. Now, some of these you might immediately recognize from Gold and Silver. I mean, we got we got Chikorita, we got Hoot. Let me move this. We got Hoot. We got Mareep and Flaffy and Ampharos. We got Crobat. Um,
Yeah,
but we got
Quillfish.
some, yeah, but we got some different. We got two different starters here. We even got some different designs for some Pokemon. So
Hmm.
what we're going to be talking about today are some of the like Gold and Silver did not just change its mechanics. It also changed its Pokemon throughout development. And when I say Pokemon, I'm meaning exclusively the Gen 2 Pokemon, whether we're talking about uh changing some of the designs that would become the official Gen 2 Pokemon, never before seen Pokemon, or Pokemon that would have debuted its new evolutions in this generation, but they debuted in different generations, or concepts of Pokemon that we would get in future generations. So, um, this is where we're going to be talking about different categories of Pokemon.
Hmm.
Now, I didn't put too many on this slide here, but for the most part, these are pretty much the unchanged Pokemon. I mean, we got Chikorita and Meganium, we got Crobat, Skarmory, Unknown, Quagsire, and Xatu. We even got Phanpy and Donphan and Ampharos and Flaffy and Mareep. Uh, those aren't all the unchanged ones, but I didn't want to dedicate most of the discussion to them. But
Right.
Xavier,
Hmm.
these are the new Pokemon. And I believe these were all the new Pokemon that have still never been released. Um, can you
Yeah.
guess what can you guess what this one is though?
Can I guess what that one is?
Yes.
So this
Um,
is so I'm guessing that's a Pokemon that exists now, but with a very different design.
yeah.
Uh,
This is the middle stage evolution for Chikorita.
really?
Yes. Uh, this is not the Bayleaf design. Now, this is its little face right here. But the thing that's questionable to me, besides the whole body proportions, um, this thing right here. What is that? Is that supposed to be like its eye?
I got no clue.
Like it's hard to tell with these sprites. But here's the thing. This is still the base form.
Hmm.
This is the final evolution.
Yeah,
What the heck are the commonalities to this thing?
I've got no clue.
Yeah. But you know what's even stranger are these fire and water starters right here. Now they do have Japanese names to them because the Game Boy code, people were able to translate the Game Boy code for this game and find out the names and the types of all these Pokemon, even the ones that would get released. Um, but but this is the fire starter, and I'm not sure what this animal is supposed to be. It looks more like a bear.
Yeah,
Um,
I can see.
yeah, but what do you think of this?
Honestly, I think that'd be a pretty cool Pokemon to show up in a later
Mhm.
installment.
Mhm.
I mean, the pre-evolution kind of looks like a fire Pikachu.
Honestly, yeah, it kind of does. Um, what about this water starter right here?
Um, I'm gonna be honest.
Mhm.
It looks very basic.
It kind of does. I
The
mean,
last one kind of gives a mix of Samurott, who was I think fifth generation,
yeah, it is.
gives a mix of that and Lapras.
Yeah.
So it's like the
Honestly,
worst parts of those.
it reminds me a lot of the Loch Ness Monster.
It
Um,
does. Now that you
yeah.
mentioned it.
Yeah, but I do prefer the water starter that we eventually get.
Hmm.
Um, now here's something different. Uh, this fish and shark Pokemon right here. So this is the pre-evolution. This is its final evolution. Now we would get anchors in Gen 7, and we would get sharks in Gen 3. But
Right.
but an anchor shark?
Honestly, that's pretty sick.
That looks pretty cool. And seeing how this is an actual chain with an anchor attached to it, this might have been a water steel type at one point.
Right.
I'm not I think Empoleon was the very first water steel type. I don't remember, but I think it took a couple generations to get that type.
Hmm. Honestly, kind of looks like Sharpedo.
Uh, yeah,
A little
it
bit.
kind of does with some of these body proportions.
Yeah.
I think Sharpedo it was definitely a little bit more stumpier.
He was, but I don't know. Like I said, that's why I said kind of.
Yeah. Now, let's talk about these cats. So, Gen 1 had its cat Pokemon with Meowth and Persian. But these are more traditional looking cats, but they have these cute little bells on them.
Oh man. Who
I
missed
believe
out
one
on
of them,
bell cats?
yeah, like look at all these little bells. And I believe one of them, their Japanese name is a B Run Run. Um but yeah, these cats are really cute. Now, here's something I'm begging. Well, I was begging for, and we kind of still don't have it, but like this is a fire seal.
Oh man.
Or I don't know if this is supposed to be like a seal or a walrus. I don't think it's a walrus because it
No,
doesn't
that's
have.
seal.
Yeah, but it's got a little fireball on it. And this was a fire water type. We only get a fire water type until Volcanion in Gen 6. And even then, that was a legendary mythical Pokemon.
There might actually be a Firewater in Gen 9.
I know there's a fire grass. I'm not sure if there's a fire water. Although I probably don't know.
No,
When
maybe.
we get
Well,
when we're
there's supposed
ranking,
to be like this firefish. I didn't know if that was a water type though.
yeah. Anyways, while you're searching for that, let's talk about these Thundercats here. Literal Thundercats.
Oh, it's a dark fire. That's dumb. If it's a firefish, it should be fire water.
Anyways, what do you think of these Thundercats here?
They're not the Thundercats.
No,
I
but they
I
start.
cannot hear any of them scream Thundercats. Oh,
But I love how not intimidating these look.
no,
Like they're oh
they honestly they kind of look like if Pikachu had more mouse-like features.
yeah, except these aren't really mice though. I mean,
Well,
I guess
hamster.
okay, hamsters I can actually kind of see. Except I don't think hamsters have these type of paws. Um, but yeah, these are not intimidating. I forget the names of these, but these are supposed to be bait. Xavier,
Yep.
can you tell me I forget the names of these types of dolls.
Sock monkeys.
I believe so. But look, it's got a freaking nail
Oh,
piercing.
voodoo doll.
Yeah, voodoo dolls.
I I'm gonna be honest, I thought that was a hand with a tail. I didn't think that was a nail.
Yeah, some of these sprites are not conveying clearly. That's why actually, so I've learned about this topic 6 years ago when the project debuted and Jay Witz covered it. So if you want to see like official, not official art, but fan art of some of these Pokemon, I would recommend checking out his video. And check out some of the other stuff that he talks about too, because like that video is pretty good. It's what inspired me to make a sort of similar video like this. But anyways, yes. And this is its evolution right here. These are ghost types.
That's its evolution?
Yes. Yes. Um,
I thought that was like a Spinda.
yeah, I this one is a little bit different though, because it definitely does not look like a voodoo doll. Um, it looks like a little like panda with like its ears and hat. But these are ghost types, and they certainly fit the vibe of a ghost type. Um, I say one of the cooler of these new Pokemon, though, besides this guy right here. Again, we need a water fire type. Bring this one back. This one would be
Yes.
cool. But this one, though, like, this one is wearing the pelt of another Pokemon and is hiding under it. Now, this is kind of similar to Mimikyu, another Pokemon that like hides its true look under a disguise, in which
Hmm.
case it's a Pikachu disguise. This is a much darker version of this. Like
So
Like wearing like Mimikyu is just wearing like some type of cloth that's just shaped like a Pikachu, but this is like an actual Pokemon, and we don't even know what this Pokemon will have looked like. Although I will say it kind of looks a lot like Obama Snow in Gen 4.
it kind of does.
Yeah. What do you think about this?
Honestly, that would have been a really cool Pokemon to have. Just the idea of like an earlier Mimikyu, but
Hmm.
one that instead of going through the trash, goes and takes discarded pelts and puts them together.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
could
But
also
these are. Mhm.
I could also see this kind of Pokemon as an Alpha Predator kind of Pokemon where or like a Skinwalker type Pokemon.
Yeah. Anyways, so I think there was a couple of Pokemon that I left out, but for the most part, these were all the new Pokemon. Now let's talk about the Pokemon that would debut in Gen 2, but would have different designs. This is Noctowl.
Hmm.
So Hoo was still a thing, but this is what its evolution of Noctowl will look like. Still around, like Hoot, and still on one foot, like Hoot.
All right.
Um, Now, I don't know about you, but I kind of prefer the one that we actually got better. I mean, I know how I said that in that video that looked too much like an owl, and that's true. And this one's has some unique owl features, but it's also kind of weird looking.
But I don't know. I prefer like a middle ground between the two.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe if there was a way, if they were able to like mesh the two together, maybe we would get something. But I think overall I prefer the Noctowl that we get. Now, we talked about Mantine before, right? The Manta Ray Pokemon in
Yeah.
Gen 2 and how it looked too much like a Manta Ray.
Yep.
This is its concept art. So I actually had all these images I grabbed from a site that has all like the upscaled sprite images. Um,
Mm.
Maybe I'll send you the links to some of these sources so that way people can check them out. But I had to grab this one straight off of Google because I remember this one. Uh, this is two sides of the Pokemon.
Okay, I was
Got
gonna say
Angel and their devil. You got your Angel and your Devil.
well, that's actually really cool.
And honestly, I preferred this over Mantine.
Yes.
Like the concept of like two sides on the same Pokemon is cool. In fact, we'll talk about one in a little bit that has a similar concept to that.
Hmm.
I don't know if this Pokemon here was supposed to be what would become Lantern because it's clearly based off the angular fish. You know, it's
Yeah.
got the jaw, it's got the.
Honestly, it looks more like a Huntail than a Lantern.
You know what? It does, and I think there were comparisons online to Huntail. Um, but if this is supposed to be Lantern, I prefer Lantern.
Yeah, Lantern's design's better.
Yeah. Now, this is a new Pokemon. Well, I guess a new Pokemon that was never released, and I could put in this section, but I'm talking about this because this is actually a pre-evolution. So I believe this one is called Twinzu, aka Twins. Um, like this ghost type body. But it's supposed to be a pre-evolution to Girafarig. Now,
What?
yes.
Hold on. What?
Okay. Just to get this out of the way now. So this my mouse keeps going back and forth. This being a pre-evolution to this does not make sense. And I'm
No.
glad that they didn't do this. However, this design alone, I wish they kept this because I do not like the Girafarig design that they went with. Because
Hmm.
like we talked about how Girafarig looked too much like a giraffe and it just had like the little chain chomp tail.
Yeah,
This
that would have
this is
definitely made it a little more iconic.
this is a clear interpretation of its namesake because giraffrig in both English and Japanese is a palindrome, spelled the same way forwards and backwards.
Mm.
This design conveys that
Yeah.
with the light half and the dark half.
Mm-hmm.
Why they did not go for this final design baffles me because I very much prefer this over the design that we actually get.
Right.
Anyways, let's talk about another radical different design. This is Polytoad. Obviously, he's still kind of plumpy, but he's not as jolly as the Polytoad that we come to know and love. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, this one, so Gen 2 was the debut of branching evolutions, as we talked about in our Gen 2 tier list. But
Mm-hmm.
there was a scrapped evolution stone called a poison stone that this would have evolved from. So
Oh,
my assumption is that it was going to be a water and poison type to contrast the Polyrath's water finding type.
you know what?
But alas, it was never a thing, and Polytoad exclusively is evolved from Polyworld through a King's Rock, which a lot of other Pokemon would evolve from. Um, Also evolving from Poison Stone was Umbreon. Now, the design itself is still very similar to what we get. However, it was not a dark type originally. It was a poison type, and it
Oh.
would have evolved through a Poison Stone. Now, this may seem weird until you look up its dex entries about some of its dex entries talk about how it sweats poison spores
Mm.
despite it not being a poison type in the final game. It makes a
Mhm.
lot more sense
Yes.
now.
Yes, it does.
Now, I talked about in our Gen 2 tier list about Remoraid and Octillery and how they were um, based off of weaponry and
Mm-hmm.
how, and I remember you specifically mentioning that you weren't able to see it.
Yeah,
Well, here we
I can see
go.
it now. I can see it now.
We got the
Array does look
revolver.
like a revolver, and
Yeah,
artillery looks like a tank.
yeah. Now, I'm back and forth with these designs, honestly, because on one hand, I like these. I
Mm.
like these better than the design that we actually get.
Right.
But on the other hand, they look they don't look too much like creatures anymore.
No.
And I don't know, maybe it's the way that the sprites are conveyed. I mean, I think Octillery looks okay, because it still looks like an octopus, but Remoraid looks more like a gun than a fish now.
Mm-hmm.
Despite me thinking it does actually look cool. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Remoraid doesn't look as much like a fish anymore. Artillery still looks like an octopus to an extent,
Yeah.
but
And I
Remoraid
know,
lost its fish look. But I do
yeah.
like that design better than just a fish.
Yeah. I mean, I know we've complained a lot, and we're probably still going to be complaining about how Pokemon just makes a ton of fish.
Mm-hmm.
I think you should, if you're going to make a fish, at least keep some fish-like features. You
Yes.
know, don't make a boring fish, but maybe try not to make this.
Mhm.
Anyways, this is Hitmontop. Now, it doesn't look as different from the design that we actually get. Still spits around on the top. It has legs. Look at this.
It's
What in the world is going on here?
I don't know. I'm trying to figure out. Hold on.
Like, like, I think I'm not sure if these are supposed to be the eyes or if this is supposed to be the eye.
Those things closer to the middle would have to be the eye.
Yeah, but it's so weird. The Pokemon designs, they make you question things.
Mm.
This one certainly makes me question things. Now, granted, this is a sprite, so sometimes it's hard to convey some of them. But I prefer the Hitmontop design that we got.
Yes,
Uh,
I
I
do too.
prefer I prefer the face design better, and it was still able to convey its actual design origin.
Mm-hmm.
Now here's some cute looking ones. I didn't put Skiploom on here, the middle evolution, but here's Hoppip and Jumpluff.
No.
Yeah, these were definitely more cat-like
Yes,
uh, than
they were.
what they actually becoming. And there's even the M colon sign with
Mhm.
the hop up design. It's really cute. And this jump cloth, it's so pink and jolly.
I
Um,
know.
I didn't put Meryl on there, and I didn't put some of these on there because while they do have different sprite colors, they ultimately had the same designs. But like, Meryl was another Pokemon that was pink before it turned blue. Um, but yeah, this jump fluff though, this looks pretty cool.
Yes, it does.
Now, I want to talk about these two side by side because they kind of have the same, and I'm gonna say problem with the designs. So we got Delibird and Murkrow.
Hmm.
Um, we talked about how Delibird is based around Santa Claus and the Emperor Penguin, and then Murkrow is basically a crow, figuratively wearing a witch's hat. These blatantly show the inspirations for the design. We got the witch hat for Murkrow, and we got the Santa hat for Delibird.
Hmm.
I actually prefer the final designs. Because again, similar to like Remoraid and Octillery, although these are way more extreme,
Hmm.
I like the subtlety that the final designs bring. Because like this is too on the nose and this is too on the nose.
Right.
Like like I don't know what you think about these.
Um, I'm hit or miss. On the one hand,
Mhm.
I can see where you're going with this is a little too on the nose. But at the same time, I think it's really cool that there is a Christmas Pokemon and a Halloween Pokemon. Or at least what would look like a Halloween Pokemon in an earlier stage. I don't know. This is something I like because of how obvious it is.
Yeah. But again, you can't make things too obvious
No.
because like by then, you gotta learn to embrace the subtlety of designs and not make things obvious. But when you discover that, like, oh, this is supposed to be a witch's hat, and this is supposed to be like based off of Santa Claus, you're like, huh? Because, like, I mean, although Delibird doesn't have the Santa hat, he still carries the bag around, and
Mm.
his signature move is present.
Yes.
Um, and then the evolution of Murkrow Honchkrow would still keep like a hat, although it's not really a witch hat, it's more of a fedora than anything. But
Mm.
it's still a very subtle fedora.
Hmm.
Um, and let's I don't think there's too much to discuss with this one. This was supposed to be Blissey. I don't think it was called Blissey, although these were all like Japanese names, so the English names would have probably been different. I don't know, but this was would have essentially be the evolution for Chansey. I
Okay.
think this was evolved with a Heartstone, and I can't remember if a Heartstone is actually a thing in the Pokemon games or not. But either way, the design definitely changed.
Mm. I don't know. I like this
Um,
design. I like the fact that it gives Blissey two eggs.
yeah, and then there's like the little heart thing that's on the top of it.
Yep.
Um, I mean, I still prefer baseline Blissey more, but this one I would have been okay with. Now this would have been evolution from this would have been Ladian, Ladybug or Ladian. And both of those Pokemon are called like the 5-star Pokemon, and this design makes it even more obvious that it's the 5-star Pokemon.
Mm.
Except it's showing 3 stars because it's not showing the back sprite. But when you look at the back sprite, it does have the 5 stars.
Uh,
Similar to some of these other designs, I prefer the design that we ultimately got.
yeah, so do
Uh,
I.
because I think it looks a little bit cooler. This looks a little bit too much like a ladybug. And ladybug already looked still pretty much like a ladybug, but it looked a little bit more distinct from it. This
All
one looks
right.
a little bit I'm gonna say puny in comparison.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I intentionally put this one for last because which Pokemon that debuted in Gen 2 do you think this is?
Um, Seal.
That's Gen 1.
Um, Spiel.
That's Gen 3. Think Gen 2.
I'm trying to think Gen 2. How
It's
does
a, I'll give you a hint. It's a new evolution to a Gen 1 Pokemon.
new evolution to each other? That doesn't help me at all.
It debuted in Gen 2. Think about it. What were some of the new evolutions in Gen 2? There was
Uh,
Crobat and Steelix and Scizor.
give me 1 second as I pull up Pokemon Go to cheat and look at the Gen 2 Pokemon because I can't
That,
think of these off the top of my head.
that's all right. I'm trying to say I'm making the moment tense because I wanted you're not gonna believe what this one is.
Yeah, I know, but
Because
that's
I briefly talked about this when we did the Gen 2 tier list. And
briefly.
I, I think you could see like how I prefer the the other design better than this one.
Okay. Well, there was something. There's no way that's that. Well, you said it's
What's
a,
your guess?
a new evolution in Gen 2?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna throw two guesses. One
Yes.
of them I feel like is the most wrong, and one of them I feel like is the closest thing to right as we could. So the
Okay.
wrong one is Kingdra. Because
No.
so is that supposed to be what Porygon 2 is supposed to be?
Yes.
What?
This is Porygon 2.
No, this is Porygon 2. I don't know what that is.
Like how it's red and blue. Anyways, yes, this is Porygon 2. Now,
What?
so I can see what they were going for, where like, because like, so Porygon, the baseline Porygon, is supposed to be based off of like technology, right? Based off
Mhm.
of older technology with older polygonal models.
Yes.
Whereas Porygon 2 has a better computer. It's got smoother textures and even rounder textures. This, however, it does not look at all like Porygon at all. In fact, it actually draws a comparison to a Japanese donut mascot, Palm de Lion.
Hmm.
The only problem, though, is that Palm de Lion did not debut until the early 2000s.
Oh.
So, yeah, I can see what they were going for this, but can you see why I prefer baseline Porygon 2 over this?
Yes, I can definitely see.
Yeah.
You go from a
But
duck to whatever that is.
yeah, this is just so quirky. I love stuff like this
Hmm.
because it's just like what in the world is going on? Anyways, those are all the different designs for the Pokemon. Now, this is an exclusive section on the legendary trio that we got in Gen 2, which would be the legendary beasts. So the legendary beasts, as a reminder, are the electric type Raikou, the fire type Entei, the water type Suicune. Now, before I reveal these prototype designs to you, Xavier,
Yes.
what were as a trio? Which, by the way, for those that don't know the lore about these legendaries, they were resurrected by Ho-Oh from like the Burning Tower in the game, and they got these different designs, which would be the designs that we would get in Gen 2.
Hmm.
When you look at them as a trio, Xavier, what are some of the thoughts that come to your mind?
Eevee. They are the Eevee evolutions resurrected into
Yeah,
or not
but
all.
as a trio though, in terms of like their designs, like
Hmm.
they look like majestic looking, don't they?
Yes, they look very majestic. You've got
Well, oh, go ahead.
no, no. Well, you've got one that basically looks like a leader, looks strong, buff. You've got one little more on the like design, elegant, graceful. And one looks fast, fierce. Looks like it could strike you from a mile away.
Well, here are your legendary dogs.
Why does Suicune look emo?
I'm glad that you mentioned that. Yeah, so here's the thing about these. These are basically what would become the legendary beasts, except they were not named their legendaries. In fact, their code names are Thunder, Fire, and Water, which obviously are placeholders
Hmm.
for the code. Yeah. I like how people joke about the legendary dogs, calling them the legendary dogs instead of the legendary beasts. But when I think legendary dogs, I think of these.
No,
And yes,
those don't look legendary.
no,
Those look
they
like
don't.
dogs you can actually find roaming around Pokemon.
Exactly. And they're looking pretty funky, especially you, Suicune.
Honestly, Suicune looks like the best looking one.
Yeah. In that Jay Witz video, he mentioned how like he liked to imagine how these models are like the ones that got cooked in the burned tower before Ho-Ho resurrected them and made them fabulous.
You know what? Man, I want to say I want to go with that, but I'm a firm believer in the evolution theory.
Yeah. Um, yeah, that is true. However, because like I'm not the biggest Raikou fan, but I'm a bigger fan of Raikou over this thing.
Yes.
What in the world are these things? Now, Gen 2, we've talked about how Gen 2 debuted different things. We talked about how they introduced new evolutions to pre-existing Pokemon for the previous generation. We
Hmm.
talked about um, brand new Pokemon. We've talked about branch evolutions. It also introduced the baby forms. Xavier,
Hmm.
are you ready to become a father?
No, no, I'm
Well,
not.
here you go.
No.
14
What?
babies.
Okay,
Okay,
hold
fine.
on.
16 babies.
I'm not gonna lie. Some of these designs don't look half bad.
Yes. Now some of these designs are different, but we would get them legitimately in Gen 2. I mean, this is Pichu, this is Cleffa, this is Igglybuff, and then there's Smoochum, who's obviously more Jinx-like um than the Smoochum that we would get. This is Elekid, and this is Magby. Um, all these other ones, we would either get in the next other generations, or we straight up won't get them at all. Um, but most of these designs, in the words of Josh from Jake and Josh, it's spherical.
That is true.
Like all of these are just little ball versions of pre-evolution Pokemon.
Mhm.
Um, Now just to go over some of these pre-evolutions, we got Baby Tangela,
That was the
Baby
one I couldn't think of because I'm sitting here like, what is that?
Yeah, that's Baby Tangela with one eye. We got Baby Goldine, Baby Paris, Baby Doduo. Don't ask how we go from three hits to two and back to three.
Someone cut off the one head and then it grew back.
This is one of my favorites, though. This is a Baby Meow with
Oh,
floating coins.
oh, that's cool.
Um, Yeah, we got Baby Ponyta, Baby Grimer, Baby Growlithe. This is Tyrogue. We would get Tyrogue, but he was more bear-like in his design. This is Baby Mr. Mime. Now we would get a Baby
You would get
Mr.
Mime
Mime.
Jr., but that is not Mime
Yeah,
Jr.
this is a very egg-like Mime Jr. I
Mhm.
also forgot to put Togepi on there, but in the decks where the images are placed in order, it's like on the lower lower end uh of like the number count. So I didn't put it on there, but Togepi was still a thing.
Right.
Um, but here's the thing. As much as I don't care for the babies in Gen 2, I'm glad they stuck to 6 instead of 16.
Yes,
Because this is so unnecessary.
it is. I mean,
Because
like I said, Baby Meowth. That honestly, that'd be the only one I would have kept as well.
yeah, because like again, we talked about in the Gen 2 tier list how like these are pretty much weaker versions of already weak Pokemon, with a couple of exceptions. But most of these baseline forms were already weak to begin with. So
Right.
making them even weaker does not help.
Hmm.
So yes, I'm glad that they didn't stick to this. Now our final slide here is new evolutions. We would eventually get some of these newer evolutions, although some of them are still not the case. So Tangela had a scrapped pre-evolution, but it
Hmm.
also had a scrapped evolution with this thing.
Huh.
It's got a little creepy smile on there. Now we would get a Tangela evolution in Gen 4 with Tangrowth, but it definitely took more from Tangela than it did with this thing.
Yes.
This one looks like creepy looking with like the freaking smile that it has. Honestly, it kind of I think Jay Witt's comparison of this to Porky from the Mother and Earthbound games.
Mm.
I would make that comparison. This is a Quillfish evolution. Now, we would get a Quillfish evolution in Legends Arceus, but
Yeah.
that was for
Okay.
the yeah, but that was for just the Hisuian version. Now, this is the odd thing, because Quillfish is a water and poison type.
Hmm.
And despite having a Thunderbolt clearly marked on its head, it was coded as just being water type.
Hmm. It's odd.
Yeah. But like what do you think of this design though? Because I don't know what to think about this.
Um, I I don't know. I'm not a big fan of it. It does make a little more sense.
Yeah. I
And
really don't like that. I really don't like the eyes though. Like
I think it's not the eyes, I think it's the mouth. Not a big fan of that mouth.
yeah, I guess it's both for me.
Hmm.
I'm gonna skip this one for now, but we'll go back to it. This is a scrapped branch evolution for Weeping Bell. So we talked about the scrap Poison Stone. This would have also evolved through Poison Stone. Except Bellsprout, the whole Bellsprout line, is already granted Poison type.
Right.
So, and to me, this looks. I kind of like it. I don't know what you think about this because
It,
it definitely looks more Bellsprout.
it does look more Bellsprout. Honestly,
Mhm.
I like it just because of how, because you were mentioning it was going to be a branched evolution. I
Mhm.
like how it's a little more withered looking, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I kind of like it too. Now, um, I am. We would get a Farfetch'd evolution in Gen 8 with Surfetch'd, but that's
Mhm.
for just the Galarian form of Farfetch'd.
Mhm.
This is a Farfetch'd evolution.
Nope,
And
scrap it.
honestly, I love this.
I'm not a big fan of it.
Rip?
It's too goose-like.
No, man. Nah, nah. Look at the mask. It's holding its tail, like its tail up as like a little stick.
But what's
Like
the other thing? The cool part about Farfetch'd was that he was holding, I want to say it was a stalk of celery.
it's a leak.
It's a leek.
Yeah, that's what it's called.
Regardless, it was holding a weapon, and the weapon was vegetables. It
Mhm.
was funny. You got rid of the vegetables and gave it its own tail to use as a weapon.
I guess I could see your point with this. However, Farfetch desperately needed an evolution,
It
and
did,
it
but
could have used one in Gen 2. And I don't know. Some of it is hard to tell with the sprite. Maybe they could have introduced a leak, and if like if it was in the final version of the Gen 2 games, maybe the official design would have had the leak. Regardless, I would have wanted this. If they kept like most of the design, because like I love the mask. I love the mask, and I love the way it poses with its feather. Makes it
Mm.
act like a cape. It's huge. Um, this is a evolution for pincer.
Honestly,
So
it kind of looks like a watered down version of its Mega Evolution.
yeah, it kind of does a little bit, except it doesn't have like the wings on
Yeah,
it.
it doesn't have the.
I think this got cut because Heracross wasn't part of like the prototype version of this game.
Hmm.
Uh, but it would in the final version. So this is it.
Right.
Um, now look at this Lickitung evolution right here.
That's the most upsetting thing today.
Really? I actually like this because
No,
we've been
I like
getting
it too. That's why this is the most upsetting one. We could have had
yeah.
the Lickitung evolution with a mustache. Instead, we
Hmm.
got Lickalick.
Yeah, a licky licky, yeah.
Or
That
Licky Licky.
so I guess a spoiler for when we get to like our Gen 4 tier list, but I am not a big fan of licky licky whatsoever. It's too round. It has a stupid Wi-Fi signal on its belly. I prefer this version.
So do
No
I.
stupid no stupid Wi-Fi symbol, and yes, amazing mustache.
Exactly.
And I like how this one it looks more Japanese culture than
Hmm.
um some other Pokemon that we have. Uh Now this one. This is a scrapped Leafeon evolution,
I
which would have made a second trio of evolutions.
hmm
But we
I
wouldn't get
like that
Leafy.
one.
Yeah, I like that one too. I do like the base form Leafeon that we would get. I think the only thing that I like from this version compared to like the other one is the feet. Looks
Yeah.
more rooted down, which
Hmm.
I think is pretty cool. It looks a lot more plant-like.
Yep.
Now, to cap off this whole dumping fest today, I present to you the evolution to Ditto. Now, I know its Japanese name is like Animon, but it was basically stronger version of Ditto. You know, same move of transforms, just Ditto with better stats.
Hmm.
Look at its face. Ah,
It looks like it's getting ready to eat you in order to absorb you.
I think it's just shocked by how much information has been dumped about this today. Um,
Right.
Now, Ditto would get a silver powder item in, I think it was Gen 5, that would help boost up its stats.
Hmm.
So I think that was the only thing that came out of this, but I don't think a Ditto evolution was like necessary.
No. Well,
Because
Ditto's main thing is it can transform into any Pokemon or human. And
hmm
like human because there is actual proof that they can transform into humans.
yeah, and it's creepy.
Oh yeah, Ditto transformations are creepy. But my thing is
hmm
when you have a character in an evolution-based system that immediately transforms into what it's supposed to be, there
hmm
isn't really much you can do extra with that. Now, you could go the Ben 10 Ultimate Alien route or the Mega Evolution route and have it where it transforms, but it adds on to it.
See,
But
I don't think here,
mhm.
I'll talk more about this when we talk about mega evolutions, but I don't think a mega evolution is permanent enough to make Ditto stronger.
No,
Because mega evolution was one of those
I'm
is
not.
one of those.
I'm not saying Ditto gets a Mega Evolution. What I'm saying is, like, you know how in Ultimate Alien for Ben 10,
Yeah.
the aliens are the aliens going through however many years of evolution.
Yeah.
That's what I would think that an evolution of Ditto would do. It wouldn't just
Okay.
transform into the Pokemon. It would transform into the Pokemon with like extra things, like like as if they were mega evolving.
Ah,
But like I said, there's no use for a Ditto to do something like that.
yeah. But with that, that is the prototype version of Gold and Silver, the pretty much radically different version of the original Gold and Silver that we would get. Um, Now, when Gold and Silver would be released, it would become, while it didn't sell as high as
Hmm.
its preceding games, I mean, it sold well enough. I think it was like below 10 million, I think, or maybe a couple million, I don't know. Um, but for a while there, it was one of the most revered games. It was one of the biggest improvements from Gen 1. Um, but this prototype version kind of shows like how much those games radically changed. And uh, you know, I wanted to weigh on this topic a little bit, at least until we talked about the Gen 2 Pokemon. But I eventually want to talk about like the games themselves, like some of its mechanics, since we've already discussed like the Pokemon. But I really wanted to talk about this because like it's just so cool. Like, and especially during a time too, because this was at an age of the internet in its infancy, where information wasn't always as credible. Things were always slow. Dial-up internet was a thing. Um, so
Right.
with the way that we've been able to process it now, like we slowly got this information, I think starting around 2013, and we finally got most of it in 2018. And now you can actually play the ROM of this game.
Yeah.
uh, and experience like some of the features that never did. I believe it's also been translated too, because of course, this demo never released in America,
Hmm.
since it was exclusively shown in a Space World presentation.
Right.
And like I said, in the future, it'd be cool to go over some of the different space worlds and see like what they present
Hmm.
in terms of like the biggest products and games that they have during those events. Because it's cool. It's cool to go over this stuff.
Right.
But, what are your thoughts overall about all these unreleased Pokemon?
The majority of the unreleased Pokemon or the alternate designs for Pokemon, I wasn't really a big fan of. I do love, for me, I think it's really cool, looking at the beginning product of something and looking at where it ended up, because it shows a lot of different concepts. It shows things that could have been rather than what is. Like I said, that Lickitung evolution disappoints me because they could have had that, and instead they went with Licky Licky.
Mm-hmm.
But
Licky Licky looks more like the Marshmallow Man.
hmm I've got my own opinions that I will share when we get to that tier list. But
Yeah, definitely.
overall, I actually like this topic. It's something that shows how something can start one way and evolve into something else. Like how like to circle back to like a personal thing for us, like how
Mm-hmm.
our podcast has been slowly evolving from, you know, one episode with three topics in an attempt to release them weekly to now one episode with one topic and now having these segments that we're adding on to that as a
Mm-hmm.
way of saying, hey, we've noticed we've got a trend, so let's put this into the trend.
Mm-hmm.
So just like how we've been evolving, I like seeing how Pokemon Gold and Silver had been developing and evolving from where it was to where it is now.
Mm-hmm. And for sure, there's a lot more to like even the early days of Pokemon that we can eventually talk about too, especially during that Gen 1, Gen 2 area. Like again, that was the era of the infancy of the internet where stuff wasn't always as credible. You couldn't easily look stuff up, and there was a lot of like speculation going on. And honestly, I kind of miss it. I mean, I didn't grow up in like the 90s. I mean, both of us were born in 2001, but we were still in that infancy of the internet still then. You couldn't easily look stuff up on the internet. YouTube wasn't a thing until 2006, and I didn't regularly use YouTube until I say the latter half of grade school. Like it, yeah. But this is cool. I like talking about this stuff like this. Um, but for those of you that might be interested in this sort of stuff, I'm going to be sending over some links to Xavier, which he will put on the video, so that way you could see some of the images and information about uh, the beta version of Gold and Silver specifically, or like all the stuff that was taking place in Space World 97. And again, there are a lot of different space worlds that happen, so maybe we'll take a look at those at some point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But those will be topics for other episodes. For now, I will say that this episode has come to a close, right, Jake?
Mm-hmm.
All right. And before we go, because I already have my topic thought up for next week, Jake,
Mm-hmm.
for this week, I want you to think about what makes someone a jerk.
Oh.
Or maybe the term that's more accurate is ass.
Mm-hmm.
But because I don't want to say that the entire episode, we're just going to say jerk. So, Jake, why don't you think about what makes someone an asshole leading up to this next topic?
Well, maybe I should watch the Spaceballs movie and maybe I'll find out.
Oh, no, I gotta think of something different now. But anyway, with that being said, I'm Xavier Dean.
Jacob Green.
All right, and we're wishing you a wonderful night, wonderful day, and a wonderful 2026. We'll see you next week.